at that point, you're not there to play it safe. Like if you're not taking risks, you're not competing.
It's empowering. I mean, anybody who's done a CrossFit workout, you finish your CrossFit workout and you're like, I'm on top of the world.
Yeah.
Like a hunger for competition and like that super intense structure, routine. I still had that desire.
Listen to the way people feel and the motivations for doing the things that they did. It was like they were describing me to a T.
I'm not trying to solve everything for you, but I know that sometimes you just need somebody to listen.
Learned the most is how to fill my cup by filling others.
Welcome to the Hungry Dog Barbell Podcast. Join me as I talk with passionate people about their life's failures and successes, and most importantly, what keeps them hungry for more. What up, dogs? Welcome back to another episode of the Hungry Dog Barbell Podcast. I'm joined by Melanie Washburne, a coach that I was able to meet. When were you here? Over the summer of 2022?
Yeah, July of this year.
She dropped by for some guest coaching at a CrossFit kick in Prussia from like halfway across the country. Mel, what's up? How are you?
Hey, Taylor. I'm super good. I'm excited to be here. And I assume that I'm actually probably pretty similar weather-wise to you guys. I live in northern Arizona, and it's we got about 8 inches a couple days ago, and it's been pretty freaking cold. So
what, snow, really?
Yes.
Oh, damn. We got like not even an inch yesterday. I woke up to it like early in the morning, but it turned to rain throughout the rest of the day. And now it's still raining, so it sucks.
Oh, well.
You guys have to
hopefully you'll get some snow too.
I was just saying, like if it does, it should only snow on Christmas and then never again after that, before or after. Do you like the snow?
I love the snow, but it feels like you have strong feelings about that. So
I do. Very strong feelings about snow on Christmas when I'm sitting inside drinking hot chocolate, and then never again after or before.
I think that's fair.
So Mel, where are you originally from?
I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, and then I moved up to northern Arizona and Flagstaff about maybe 13, 14 years ago now to go to school and never left. So I love it here. So I own my own business out of my garage. And then I also coach a few GPP classes at a local gym in town. But most of my hours that I coach are out of my own garage with my clients.
Hey, that's dope. So Mel, did you grow up your whole life playing sports? Like what was the first sport you fell in love with?
Yeah. So first sport was actually fencing. So I was a competitive fencer for a long time. Saber was the weapon of my choice. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I watched Die Another Day by James Bond and was like, I'm totally going to do that.
Wait, so that's so cool. And if what I'm about to say, if I'm wrong about this, anybody else that's been on the podcast, call me out for it. Like it's been a couple of times that I've said like, yo, you're the first person I've had on here that's done this. I'm pretty sure you're the first person that like competed in fencing or did fencing as a sport that's been on the podcast. And like, I'm really hyped right now. So you just said like saber was your sword of choice. So there's different kind of swords, like break it down to me.
Yeah, there's 3 different weapons. There's saber, epee, and foil. And they just differ by the target. So epee is like the entire body is the target. And then for saber, it's everything from the waist up, including the head. And then foil would just be the torso, front and back.
Okay, so epee is the entire body, you said, right?
Yep.
Saber is like the upper body?
Yep.
And then what was the last one?
Foil, which was just the torso.
Just the torso. Wow. I feel like a little kid right now. I'm super interested. How does one get into that? Like what age were you when you got into it?
That was probably about 12 years old. Before then, I did kind of the typical sports, swimming, softball, volleyball. I mean, for the most part, swimming was a big piece too, because, I lived in the freaking desert and that's really all you could do in the summer as a sport was live in the pool. So,
right. I'm going to go back to that, but did you really watch To Die Another Day and then like you dove right into fencing?
I totally did.
So no one else does fencing like in your family that like you had a connection to? You just got into it?
Nope. Yeah.
Cool. So what's the first day like? Do they put like a little non-tipped sword in your hand?
They're like, yeah, go for it. No, usually they start with footwork. So big piece of it is learning the footwork, learning how to move up and down the strip, which is what's the thing that you fence on, right? Nice. If you ever watch the Olympics. And so they kind of just teach you all of that. They teach you the basics of knowing how to score and, and each weapon too, this is a big difference between the weapons. Foil and epee are point weapons. So you have to hit the tip on the target. where saber is what they kind of call a slashing weapon. The whole blade, anywhere you hit, is
a point.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
that's so cool. So speaking of the strip, is there like a designated area you have to stay in, and how like big is it?
Yeah, the designated area. So the strip, man, it's been a while. So about 3 feet wide, and then length was, I think, around maybe like 30 feet is my best guess. So pretty long. And you kind of start about 10 feet apart, and then you have the ref that says go, and you're moving up and down that strip. And of course, the ref is the one that determines who gets the point.
That's cool. Were you like more of a defensive or offensive fencer? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I'm probably more offensive. I had a Romanian coach who was very intense, but I loved him for it.
Nice.
And of course, fencing is so old school, right? It's been around for so long. And so like in Europe, it's huge there. And so
Cool.
there actually are a lot of European coaches that came over to the States. And it's actually, I think fencing is quite a bit larger where you guys are out on the East Coast. But it's definitely
I'm
grown
going to a fencing match tomorrow. I never knew how fired up I would get over fencing. Wait, so
it's pretty fun.
I don't know if you watch like any of the Marvel movies, but they have Disney Plus and the shows that they put out. So Hawkeye, the purple clad dude from the movies, he's got his own show, and he's got this like new female sidekick who also shoots arrows and stuff. So close to shooting arrows and archery is she also grew up as a fencer. So of course, in one of the episodes, they have like a big sword fight with her and this other dude. And I was like, oh, wow, this is actually really, really cool when I watch it right now.
Yes. You should go. You should find a local fencing gym and do it.
That's what I just said. I was like,
Pinnacle of that CrossFit pyramid. Play new sports.
I was like, this is now a fencing podcast. That's what it is. All right. But anyway, so as much as I can talk about fencing the rest of the day, did you continue swimming like the rest of your young adult life?
No, that was more young adult. Fencing was really took over by that 12, 13 year and then into high school. So
nice. Do you consider yourself did you consider yourself a competitive person back then?
Yeah, I think I kind of hung my hat on that for a really long time, being a very competitive person and feeling like I needed to prove myself in any sport that I played. And now that narrative has very much changed in my 30s.
That's funny. So. Yeah. It's like you got to find a new like outlet for it, right? You know, like yes. as you keep getting older and older. So do you come from like an athletic family? Like no one else was fencing, but like, did you guys talk about health and wellness? Like, did you guys eat well growing up?
Yeah. I feel like this is a lot or pretty similar for a lot of people that I've talked to, but health was something that was seen, but not necessarily like talked about. So my dad was very, very athletic. He would go to the gym multiple times, kind of like a Globo gym, go there to do his own weightlifting. So he'd do that like probably 4 to 5 times a week. And he also was a big road biker. So he always road biked every day to work, which for him was like 20 to 30 miles a day. So, my dad is very much like the ectomorph type, tall, lean, right? But yeah, and he played sports all growing up. And so whenever my brother and I were born, of course, his big involvement with us was to, be involved in our sports, which he was great at. So got a lot of influence from him, but it wasn't necessarily like, let's sit down and talk about like why this is important to have throughout your whole life. It was just like, we just do it. We do it because it's the right thing to do to move your body and keep it healthy. And my family was also really good at doing home cooked meals every night too, which was like whole foods, which is, I think I didn't appreciate what that taught me until I was older.
Right. That's so good. I mean, like I tell people it's so odd to look back on, but in the 90s, it was all about like not home cooked meals, but like TV dinners, right? Like they marketed and advertised that. It took me. So then where was like young Mel's mind at like graduating high school? Where were you gearing your life towards? Did you have any direction?
Oh my God, zero direction. I like went with like my favorite subject, which was chemistry. And that's what I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in.
Sweet.
And so, but I knew I wanted to go to Flagstaff. So like my family and I always visited Northern Arizona, loved it there. I love the mountains and the cooler weather. We also have like 4 seasons in Flagstaff versus, Phoenix is like hot and then like kind of cold, but not really cold.
Like very minimally cold.
Yeah. Like they're at like, 67 degrees most days right now, like pretty awesome.
Yeah. Right. I was going to say, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
But I do like seasons though. Like that's part of the reason why I don't move away from Pennsylvania. Cause like I want fall sometimes, you know, I want winter for a week during Christmas, like I said.
One day.
Oh, but yeah, keep going. So you got it in chemistry?
Yep. So I came up to Northern Arizona University here in Flagstaff and got my bachelor's degree, and didn't want to leave, but it's kind of a hard town to live in. It's just expensive. So after I graduated, I had probably for about a year or two, at least like 3 jobs to keep afloat.
Yeah,
and then I luckily got a job at a place called Gore. Most people know Gore for Gore-Tex, which is their fabrics division.
Okay.
But I actually worked for the medical device division. And I worked there for about 7 years as a clinical study manager. So kind of climbed the ladder there, made really good money. But then I just kind of found that I wasn't very passionate about what I did. So then went full send into coaching. So.
Wait. So before you go to that, like,
I know.
when did fencing stop? Was it like a recurring thing? And were you exercising throughout this time period? What was going on with that?
Yeah. So exercising, fencing stopped after I finished high school. There really wasn't any fencing up here in Flagstaff. And honestly, like my fitness just fell off a cliff when I started going to school. I think I just, up here in Flagstaff, people smoke a lot of reefer, it's very popular here. And so started doing that. That made me very lazy and eat a lot of food.
All I think of when I think of Arizona is like there's this real old video of DMX living there before and him being like, yo, I could ride my ATV, shoot guns and smoke weed out here. I'm not leaving. So whenever someone says Arizona, that's what I think.
That sounds about right.
DMX shooting shotguns on his ATV, smoking a blunt.
Yes. But yeah, so that, I had, I would say most of my years in college, it was kind of like a dark night of the soul, was dealing with a lot of like emotional things and, family issues. And I didn't take care of my body and I didn't exercise. And by the end of college, I, got things together. I got on a diet, lost the weight that I had gained.
Was there like a catalyst for that? Like what made you want to turn those things around? Yeah,
good question. I think, what was it? Yeah, I haven't thought through that. It's a great question. I think I just started doing a lot of self-reflection. I remember at that time I started journaling a lot and really trying to understand or sit more with my emotions instead of I used to stuff them a lot with food.
Yeah.
And so sitting with those and starting to realize okay, it's okay to feel these things and not shove them away with, weed, alcohol, food. Right.
Right.
And I think that really started to just put me in a different mindset. And I think once I started eating healthy too and more controlled portions, I love sugar too, still do. Problem.
You don't notice out there, humans' downfall is sugar, right?
Yes.
It's so hard to get off of. That's why Glassman's thing is off the couch, off the carbs,
Totally. So yeah, I think, and once I started eating healthy, I just noticed how much clearer I felt. My body felt lighter, my mind, I felt sharper in my mind. It just, and I think once you start feeling that for a certain amount of time, you get worried about losing it. So just continued the journey until I was at a healthy weight. And, from then I went into Bikram yoga. This is embarrassing to say. That was my main exercise. Every day I did Bikram and I was yeah, I'm fit and healthy.
They said that guy was doing some weird stuff. Actually, I saw the documentary on him. So
yeah. Then I watched that. I was great. Just supported that guy for years of my life.
But they want to cancel everybody that did anything. So,
Yeah.
It's whatever.
Gave me something. So
yeah, exactly. You got the positive out of it. So you started doing Bikram yoga and working out and stuff. When does CrossFit come into the picture? When was the first time you walked into a CrossFit gym?
Yeah. So before I walked into a CrossFit gym, I walked into a HIIT gym, a small gym that one of my coworkers at Gore got me into, which I'm super grateful for. And they did a lot of kettlebell, dumbbell work, but that was the first time that I'd done anything like that, any kind of strength training, even as a kid growing up. I think that narrative is changing, but usually with kids, you just get them moving in sports and you don't really talk about, how to build your muscular strength. And
you had never done any strength training before this?
No. Yeah. And so started doing that for about 2 or 3 years. And then there was a gentleman who took over that gym who came from a CrossFit gym. So he didn't turn it into a CrossFit gym, but he had CrossFit training. CrossFit methodology was definitely what he practiced. So he, then put barbells in there and weights and all the, the rig. And I was just like, oh, what's this stuff? And then once I touched a barbell, it was like game over. Heck yeah, let's go.
That was what you gravitated towards first? Like when you were doing those things, that was your strength?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm definitely, I'm going to always do better in like the shorter, heavier time domains in CrossFit. The longer ones gonna suffer.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir right now. I love it. I love it. So you keep doing that. Like at the very beginning, when you're with this trainer, did you have any idea that you might want to do what he did at the very beginning?
I didn't actually, again, something I'm ashamed to say, but I was totally one of those people that was really adverse to CrossFit for a long time. You hear all the time, oh, you get injured, it's intense, people are really competitive. And so I was always kind of hesitant about going to a true CrossFit gym. But he was the one who actually convinced me to go, because he had to eventually sell the place as well. He's like, you should go to a CrossFit gym, you should check it out. And so, seeing him coach, of course, that was intriguing, but I coached some of those HIIT classes for the owner prior to that. That wasn't CrossFit, of course, but that was kind of my first introduction of teaching group fitness classes.
Oh, how did that stuff go at the very beginning?
Oh my God. I was like, as I was preparing for this podcast, I pulled up my old workout book that the workouts I made for that. And I'm just like, yes. Oh my God, these poor people.
Yeah.
that I coached. Oh, I mean, they enjoyed it. They told me that, but now knowing what I know about fitness, exercise, and I'm just like, oh wow, that was
everybody starts somewhere, man. Literally everybody starts somewhere, we were all terrible before. Like it's, not terrible, but we all start somewhere, but that's funny. Keep going.
And so when I finally walked into a CrossFit gym, so I started CrossFit with that gentleman in about 2017, when he sold the place and told me to go to the CrossFit gym. That's where I went to CrossFit Vert here in Flagstaff, in 2019. So that's when I actually started at a CrossFit gym, but had been doing CrossFit for 2 years before that. But yeah, once I went there, I think it's just like everybody else's story. Like what you worried about was just totally null and void within the first class that you took. The community was totally welcoming. I mean, I remember this one girl who's now my best friend. We work out in our garages together to this day, but she walked up and hugged me. She's like, welcome. We're so stoked to have you here. Like, what's your background? I'll help you figure out the movements. Like, the coach is going to be really good. They'll take you through the whole thing and give you any skills if you need it, and so I just felt, right at home, and they welcomed me into their community and, taught me how to do CrossFit right. So
that's awesome. So how long after you walk into that gym, CrossFit Vert, is that what it is? Vert?
Yep. Vert.
How long after you walk in there do you go get your level 1?
Yeah. So I was there as a member for about a year, and it was actually the head coach and the owner approached me and said, hey, we think that you have potential to make a good coach. Would you be interested in getting your level 1? And we would take you through the internship process and see how that goes. I said, yeah, I think that'd be great. Like at that point, I, was kind of missing being able to coach what I used to, but was definitely intimidated to coach something that was so much bigger, right? Using barbells, teaching people how to do kipping muscle ups. But I was up for the challenge. And so took my level 1 in 2020, right at the beginning of 2020.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, right. We all know how that story goes. So yeah, I want to say it was first weekend in January, came back, went through the internship process, and I maybe coached 2 or 3 classes on my own before everything shut down.
Damn.
Yeah. I helped do of course, the Zoom classes, which were, of course not the same, but still got our members moving, which was great. And that was I set up a little corner in my garage. That's where the garage gym started, was creating a little corner with 2 mats and to be able to record these videos for the members. But yeah, unfortunately the pandemic ended up closing that gym down for good.
Wait, before that, how long were you guys closed for? Well, how long? Let me say it like this: how long did the state say you guys were supposed to be closed?
Yeah, it was different for each state. So for Arizona, I want to say it was not as conservative as Pennsylvania as far as I know, but let me know. I think it was about maybe only 3 or 4 weeks, not even that.
Okay.
Where we really had to be closed.
Yeah.
And then after that, they started to let them open up, and they tried to have certain,
Guidelines.
yes, which were very loosely followed. So
Right. It was what it was. That was a wild, wild west time,
Yeah, oh, totally. No one knew what they were doing, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, try to do CrossFit in a mask. It freaking sucks. Like, Of course you don't want to do that. Like,
Yeah.
it just
I had this big argument with a friend before about that. That sucked.
Yeah. So, yeah. And unfortunately, I think for a long time, those owners of Vert, they were paramedics and firefighters, and they already had that full-time stressful job, and they were trying to run Vert, which I think that's a lot of narrative for a lot of CrossFit gyms. It's something that they love and are passionate about, and they were great coaches, but they had full-time jobs. And I think for a while they were trying to keep it afloat and grow it, but I think they kind of saw the opportunity to move on because of the pandemic, and for them it was the right thing, for their family and their lives. So I was happy for them. Of course, sad to lose the community, but I think they made the right choice for themselves.
Yeah, that's good. What was the weekend like when you got home from your level 1? Like, did you have the glow from CrossFit all over you?
Yeah, I just felt like, okay, I just tried to, because it's like information overload. You're like, okay, I thought I knew CrossFit. No, I didn't know shit. Right. Like, and so hopefully we could curse on this podcast.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. So yeah, I just remember being like, okay, let's just take 1 or 2 things. We're just going to focus on that. And that's what we're going to try to implement in this class. Cause I just remember being like, okay, I just got this wealth of information and I'm just trying to apply it. And so attacking it just little by little is kind of how I first started coaching classes after that.
That's great. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Like, take one small piece of information, because your athletes can't really process more than like 1 to 2 pieces. So like, you shouldn't be trying to teach more than 1 or 2 pieces at a time, especially at the very beginning. Like, then as you get more professional experience, you could add on more macro things to try to teach people, bigger ideas. So where's your head at, like, during the pandemic, and like the gym's closing down, you just became a trainer. Like, what are you thinking? What's your next step?
Yeah. So it only took me about 4 or 5 months to decide I wanted to leave my job at Gore, my corporate job, to start my own business and continue coaching. I think by the time I got into CrossFit and got into coaching CrossFit, I was like, wow, this is something I'm really passionate about, and I kind of want to chase it head on. And of course, tons of, stressful conversations with a lot of people, and talking with my husband about it. And I think when I finally pulled the trigger, it felt 100% right, but it was hard to pull that trigger because you have a comfortable job that pays really well, and then you're kind of taking this leap of faith. But as I look back on it, it's like chump change now. It's like, come on, that was right. You needed to do that, Mel.
Yeah, the hardest part is getting started.
Yes, 100%. So in October of 2020 is when I left my job and went full send into my garage gym. So
what's the first step in building the garage gym out? Getting all the equipment in, picking a name. What do you do first?
Yeah. So I think the name was definitely a big piece. I think you put a lot of like heart and soul into choosing this good name, but I think that evolves as time goes on. But yeah, I chose Salis 360. Salis is the Greek goddess of health and prosperity and community. So that was applicable. And then 360, just the idea of like whole health. It's not just about coming into the gym and getting a high heart rate, getting a good workout. Like, what are you eating? How are you sleeping? How do you treat your friends and family? Like, whole health, mental, physical,
all the other parts that teach at the level 1s and level 2, that's part that people miss out on a lot. Like, it's not just about fitness. It's about all your neurological pathways, how you're talking to yourself, how you're talking to other people, developing relationships. They talk about all those things at the seminars,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome. So you start picking the name. Shout out to that. Shout out to Salis 360 too, since we're talking about it right now. You pick your name, you start getting equipment in. How do you go about becoming a better coach and business owner?
Yeah, the business owner, one thing that was super helpful is there's a small business corporation here in Arizona that offers a small business course that was, maybe I think like 8 weeks long, met like once a week, over Zoom for a couple hours. And they just kind of gave you a lot of very basic information of how to run a business, a small business, which was super helpful. And I think there are a lot of things out there like that I've found. I use like Push Press, and they have these awesome like articles that they send out that are like short reads that are like helpful in a lot of different things, like how to get year-end sales, and how to get more people in, and how to make sure you have good experiences with your clients. And so there's a lot of free content out there that I've really utilized to become hopefully a better business owner. But yeah, with coaching aspect, I kind of went full dive into that in 2021 and 2022. I got my level 2 at the beginning of 2021, and then got my level 3 in the beginning of 2022. And so kind of like a year between each level of my level 1, 2, and 3. But I started to, after my level 2, I just started to kind of have this infatuation with the red shirts. I just thought that they were just hot shit. I was like, they're so good at what they do. And by the time I took my level 2, I had the interaction with the red shirts a few times, and I was just like, I want to learn more from these people. So I started just reaching out to red shirts at different gyms and saying, would you be willing to host me for a week if I came and wanted to coach a few of your classes and get your feedback, just because I wanted to learn, and I knew that getting feedback was the best way to do that. And getting it from the best, of course, is awesome. But so I started
feedback, like unabridged feedback. That far.
Yeah. And so the coaching journey, right? Of course, getting my level 2 and then level 3 was part of it. But honestly, I feel like my biggest learnings have come from going to places like visiting you guys and CrossFit King of Prussia, and going to, I like wrote them all down. I literally had this year of growth where I'm like, I'm going to visit as many places as I can. I started with Katie Hayes at Beaver Menace CrossFit, which is outside of Denver, Castle Rock, Colorado.
Yeah.
And I have kind of like my biggest learnings from each of those, if you want me to go into those.
Do it. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Okay. Biggest learning from her and their community was how to run an effective group class and make it fun. Like, they're just really good at that. They, simple things like they would always have this like question of the day at the whiteboard, which is just get people interacting and having fun. And, they'd be silly questions sometimes, or, more serious questions. And I loved that. They did a lot of games. They did really good job at like drilling movements and really focusing on getting people better, not under load. And then as they got load as well on their bodies. But they also had a really clear path and intention for each of the coaches. They knew that when they coached a class, that they were expected to have prepared for that class and set up for that class. It wasn't like coming in with a Starbucks cup and just be like, all right, here we go. Like they were ready for it.
Yeah. That's funny.
Which, was the first time I had really seen that be implemented across entire team of coaches, and how effective it was. So that really was my biggest learning from them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Wow. After that, I did a coaching development program at CrossFit Roots with Nicole Christensen.
Yeah.
She is like the most intense person I've ever met, and I love it. And the biggest learning from them was like being able to look and identify like specific faults effectively. And be able to turn my brain off to like everything else that I wanted to look at. They kind of teach you that in the level 2, where it's just like dynamic focus, static scan, right? But I still would kind of get caught up in just being like, okay, I kind of see a lot going on, but I didn't really know what to do with it. And because I was not looking at a specific thing.
Yeah.
So she taught me how to do that really well, which was awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. Let's see who else. Gene Williams at Palm Springs, California, at Foundry CrossFit. And these are all red shirts. But I also took classes from all their other coaches too, that were, various levels, 1 through 3. And they all had gems to teach me as well. So it was great to work with all their teams. But Gene, biggest learning from him was learning how to move the needle forward for each athlete. And just understanding that if you can move it forward by just 1%, right? We hear that a lot, I think.
Right.
But, if it's just 1% every day with these athletes like that, how big of a win that is. And being proud of moving that needle by 1%, because I think as coaches, like we want to help our athletes get as great as they can, but, appreciating that there's a process there.
Right.
Both from them as a development, but also as a coach to be able to coach them for a long period of time. So
that's really important. I mean, you're not going to, Rome wasn't built in a day, so when you work with these athletes, like the small daily improvements, I mean, just an athlete comes 4 times a week for 1 month and you move them by 1% every day. Look where they are from January to February, and trying to see that's really, really important, because like a lot of times we're going in, just like you're saying, trying to fix everything.
Yes.
And then we fix nothing.
Exactly.
So it's important to like really key in on, okay, I can help this athlete in this one small way today. I'm going to really try to accomplish that,
Yeah. He's very good at that. And then, last on my list is Amy Lyons for you guys, right? At CrossFit Human Prussia. That was super awesome. I think that was a very big, like emotional, visit for me, because Amy really taught me to trust myself and my abilities as a coach. I think I didn't realize how much I wasn't doing that. Like, for example, one of the first classes I got to coach, I literally, it's so embarrassing to say this.
No, this is awesome. I was there. I think I know what you're going to say. I was there.
Oh God. But I was so nervous, and I had forgot. I wrote down my lesson plan on like a sticky note, which I got from Nicole Christensen's gym. They all do that there.
Yes.
And I just totally forgot everything. And I had to whip it out and look at it afterwards, in front of a probably 16-person class. And Amy's like, don't ever do that again.
Yeah, wow,
okay,
that's not even that
Amy.
bad. But yeah, she was just, why she said that to you? Because she knows the level of coach that you are,
Yes. And that was good. I needed to hear that. And that's exactly what she said after. She's like, don't do that again. You know what you're doing. Just trust yourself.
Yeah.
She's probably said that to me in many different ways over those 2 weeks that I was there, but it was so important to hear that. So yeah, I think for me, I've worked through a lot of doubt, with my abilities with coaching, but everybody who I've worked with has helped me in every way, just move the needle forward for myself. So
yeah. Mel, let me say this. It takes balls to go somewhere else and coach at a gym, that you don't have any ties to or anything like that. I've done that. I'm a full-time coach too. And a lot of the times your interview process can be just coaching a class. And that's what I did my first day at King of Prussia. And I had went here before I had my last job. I used to go here for a year and a half. So I knew a lot of people, but it was still nerve wracking on my first day. So that takes a lot of balls and trusting yourself to be able to go do that. So the fact that you got on a plane, came out here to do that, that's really gutsy. And then coming and coaching the classes is gutsy on top of that. Dude, was I away? I was away in the very beginning when you first came here, but then I was back by the 3rd or 4th day, and you coached my 9:30 class. Do you remember this?
Yes.
That class is usually freaking 5 people, like the moms, the stay-at-home
yes.
moms, like that.
There was 50 or 60 people.
And you have some kind of curse that you brought from Arizona on you. that class that day had 17 people in it. 17 people, and everyone listening out there, the workout that Mel had to do for these 17 people, that was all over the board of athletes. For me, who can I can RX everything. I'm not the fastest, but I can do all this stuff. To Dana, shout out to you out there. She's great too, but she's a little spacey. To the owner, Amy Lyons, who needs a lot of attention. Sorry, Amy. To just a whole bunch of other people in this 17-person class. The workout is the chief. No, not the chief. The 7. It's a hero workout that has everything in it. If you go off to 7 different CrossFitters at a bar and ask them what movement that they want to do in the workout, that's the workout basically. And Mel had to run us through that. And I was I thought you did a great job. We may have been cleaned up by 2 minutes after the hour.
No, I think you're being generous. I still think I was like 10 minutes over the timeline.
No. Mel, I'm not, trust me, I'm not blowing this up right now. I'm trying to be nice to you. I talked to Amy afterwards and I was like, yo, that chick was good. She got that shit done. Because we've been in those situations before where like you have a class plan, but it's for your regular class. And then all of a sudden, just for some reason, all blows up in your face. You have a million people, all these movements, just the perfect mixture. I thought you did a great job of this shit. I was like, yo, this is a lot right now. If I had to do that, I would have known that I would have been like, fucking shit, got to get my shit together. But
I think that was going on in my head the entire time. Maybe I just kept my cool though.
No, Mel, and I think that it was the general consensus that day too. And like, I would have been stressed out. And I coach here 6 days a week, Mel. You flew in and you were gone in 4 more days and had to do that. I thought you did a great job. Like that takes a lot to be able to do that. And I think that you do trust yourself, and that sometimes thoughts just creep in. And like, I think that's the point of what I'm trying to say. Like, yo, coaches out there, when you have your class plan, that's very good. Like, be prepared will help you with everything, but you got to know your shit. And like, you knew your shit enough to like, no matter what was going on, we could get this all done. Like, I'm talking, there's handstand push-ups in that workout, heavy thrusters, a deadlift, a kettlebell swing, like everything. That's not super hard to teach, but it's just enough that you have to have somebody to move in pieces. And to get 17 people done, dude, if you were done 10 minutes after 1 o'clock, I mean, at whatever time the hour was at that point, like that would have been great. But from what I remember being pretty clean. Well, I'm always the last person to clean up, but I remember being pretty cleaned up by like just after the hour. I thought you did great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I've been in that exact same situation and been stressed out. So I could only imagine like what you were going through with that,
Yeah.
But that's awesome.
Thank you.
You have anything else on your list? Are you going to go travel to see anyone else?
Well, it's like I visited so many awesome places now. It's like the next thing is just to revisit all of them again.
Now you got to go visit Greg Glassman. That's the only person.
I know, right?
On the list. Got to get.
I think one that still is very much on my list is Todd Widman, who's at Zootown CrossFit. He's a really good CrossFit kids coach, or he's a great coach in general, but he's talked a lot about like coaching kids, and I would love to, be able to work with him for a little bit. So
he is like the coach of coaches, Todd Widman.
Yeah. Yes.
High level seminar staff person. That'd be great. I did want to ask, what was it like going from just coach to now business owner? Like,
I think the biggest thing, and this may be a little bit down a different path of your question, but out of my garage, right, or just coaching in general, I taught a lot of like smaller classes. Right now, out of my garage, I can maybe only do 4 max because of the space.
Yeah.
I go to a place like CrossFit King of Prussia. Like, honestly, the biggest stress is just having to know I'm going to coach a 16-person class or 17-person class, because I don't get that very often. I'm always like kind of jealous of coaches like you that get that opportunity, because I'm just like, that's a whole different game. But anyways, yeah, I feel like that's where I really saw like a difference in my coaching, or really having to hone in on skills of just like, okay, yeah, you can coach one person really well, or you can coach a group of 5 or 6 people really well. Like, how does that translate now to, double or triple that size? That really, I think, is where you can start to see maybe some gaps in what you need to work on as a coach. But it really can elevate you as well. So and it goes back to that, like moving the needle forward. Like, if you have a 17-person class, were you able to contact everybody in that class, or make an interaction with everybody in that class and move their needle forward just a little bit?
That's awesome. Yeah. And I like, once again, I'm not trying to blow smoke your way or anything. People enjoyed you. And I think that people feel like they learned from you when you were out here. So like, that was awesome. We get a lot of coaches through here. Not just like that come in to work out, that guest coach, that take the seminars and stuff. And, I think you would definitely be welcome back. I think you left an imprint on people here. So, and that's hard to do, right? Like, we are a continuation of our mentors and everyone that we've ever learned from. So
absolutely,
it's always fun. So you just told us like what's next for the gym, but like, what are you hungry for, like personally?
Yeah. It's still along the lines of the gym, like hungry to make a community of myself. Like, I do have a small community out of my garage, but because of the limited space and not having large classes, it's a different feel. Right. And so having to, go to these places, especially like King of Prussia, you guys have an amazing community there. And it was just so cool. And I really want that back. I had that at CrossFit Vert, kind of have lost it and tried to build it on a small scale out of my garage. But knowing that if I can move into a bigger space, create, a larger affiliate, like to be able to build that, I think is a huge goal of mine. Because I think it would fulfill me, but it also obviously fulfill the community that I live in. So, but besides that, a big goal of mine is becoming part of CrossFit Seminar staff. So that's a very large goal for me.
Love that.
There's internships open that they just opened up. And so I applied for that. So we'll see if I hear back. Maybe I'll get my first shot in an internship.
Be great.
But yeah, that's definitely what I'm hungry for next.
Yeah. They finally opened up the level 4 guidelines of interning at a place. And, for a while it was like a secret mystery. I think we might have talked about that before, how no one exactly knows how to get your level 4,
Yeah. No, well, now they've put a stamp approved process for it. So now it's out in the world. It'll be exciting to see how many people are, come up and pass it and become level 4s.
Yeah. But before we get out of here, also Amy, of course, told me to tell you hi, and that she's following along with everything you're doing. She's happy for you and hopes to see you out here again soon. That'd be great.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Your guys are like first on my list to come back to. I just had so much fun. Everybody was so wonderful.
That'd be so great. Mel, I think this has been a great conversation. Thanks for coming on. Maybe we can chat again soon for the podcast if you have anything else going on. Like I said, we want to see you back out here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It was awesome to talk to you, Taylor, and thanks for the questions.
Of course. Dogs, we're getting out of here. Peace.